It's me. It was me. All right. I'm going to call this Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services Committee meeting to order at 5:31 p.m. Roll call, please.
Okay, Sean Levy,
Present.
Greg Snyder,
Present.
Spencer Anderson. The roll reflects that Spencer is absent.
Could I have approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? We'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is approved. Would you like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes?
So moved.
All right, it's been second. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, having no discussion, we'll move forward with the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 2A, discussion and action items, update on Beloit Memorial High School Academy model.
Good evening. My name is Emily Pells, and I am the principal at Beloit Memorial High School. And it is my pleasure to provide you an update on the Beloit Memorial High School Career Academy model this evening. I have several co-presenters with me. I have Deb Prowse, who is our Academy coach. I have Monica Christopa, who is the Chief of Communications for the district. And then I have two of our Ford NGL coaches with us virtually, Donna Gilly and Jane Heipel. And so I actually am going to go ahead and turn it over to Deb Prowse right away. She's going to kick the presentation off for us.
Are you on?
Dr. Kieser's doing the footy.
All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is why we decided to do this. And we actually have been in the process of this for several years, but COVID and some turnover has caused us to take it a little bit different route than we wanted to. But why did we start this conversation? To increase academic achievement, first and foremost, for all of our students. Improve preparation for college, career, and life. Develop 21st century skills. Hopefully, in the ideal setting, have every single one of our students walk out of the high school with an industry certification and or college credits to be earned, they've been earned. Increased earning potential, because as soon as you have that specialized training and that education that goes beyond high school, you automatically will be at a different level for earning for the rest of your life. And to increase our graduation rates as students find the coursework that they're doing relevant and of interest to them. So there's three keys to the academies, and what I've been doing this year is really working hard to develop input from both business and post-secondary, and I'm also working on building relationships within the community. I've reached out to different organizations. I've heard back from some, but not others, and continue to reach out that way as well. But I've joined Rotary. I've joined several LinkedIn pages and stuff like that to just start developing those partnerships. Those partnerships are going to be critical, because without the support of our community and our entire community, this won't be as successful as we want it to be. We want a place for all of our kids, and we want all of our kids to benefit from this. Career-related and college preparatory curricular experiences. So all of our students will take Algebra 2, but the Algebra 2 that they take might be related to stuff that is of interest to them. So for example, if they are in our Bmhs Academy and they are working on construction, the Algebra 2 that they do might be centered around problems that they encounter in the construction field. Okay. Smaller learning communities, as I sit in our academy meetings, I hear our students and our students discussed by our teachers, and the teachers have these students in common. So there's a lot of conversation regarding, you know, is this student doing okay in your class? What are you doing that's engaging to them? Have you found anything that works? If the student is struggling, is he struggling or she struggling in all of our classes or just one? So it allows for that type of communication and intervention to take place on a more quickly than it would be if we were just in our building of 1,700 going about our day. It's a lot harder to connect, but we have a dedicated time now to do that. So we're wall to wall, which means our freshmen are in one of three different academies, gray, white, or purple. And they have common teachers, and those teachers are able to discuss how our students are doing and what can be done to improve the educational experience for those students. And then we have three upperclassmen academies, BAC, which is Business, Arts, Communication, and Hospitality, HES, which is Health, Human, and Educational Services, and PACMES, which is Public Service, Automotive, Construction, Manufacturing, Engineering, and Science. So just to give you an idea of what our students can earn right now as we build this academy program. We have industry certifications in auto tech, Microsoft Office, CNC, lifeguarding, CPR, CNA. We have a global scholar and a seal of biliteracy, which both are involved with our language, our world language department. Competencies in IT fundamentals, and we have several different ways for students to earn different certifications and accreditations and credits to the UW system. Associate's degrees and or technical diplomas can be earned in automotive tech, business management, culinary arts, early childhood education, foundations of teacher education, LPN, CNA, and welding. So all of those are situations where either students with those degrees and diplomas can either walk out of our building ready to work and earn a high wage in a highly sought after field, or they can go on to school and get a 4-year degree with the foundations that they've set. We also offer advanced and dual credit standing and AP courses. We have 21 in-person AP courses and the opportunity for students to take many others online if they so desire. We have 20 transcripted courses with Black Hawk Technical College and 4 advanced standing courses with Black Hawk Technical College. We also have 5 dual credit courses with the UW system and other colleges. So things that we are working on right now and things that our students are able to experience right now are youth apprenticeships in CNA, hospitality, manufacturing, auto tech, construction, and we are working on building others. Mr. Capizillo has visited several classrooms right now, and he has a list of about 150 students that are juniors and seniors who are interested in some kind of work-based or youth apprenticeship for their next year or this summer. And he's not done visiting classrooms, so that's a really good start. Cooperative learning and early childhood education, we work closely with the YMCA to get our kids some experience there, hospitality, business, and healthcare. We are also working on internships both within our district and outside of our district. Some of those are paid, some of those are unpaid. Some examples would be we're trying to develop and we are working on doing a geek squad starting within our building, but then going out. So our students in IT will be able to go out and support technology issues across the district and as part of their work in the internship. Welty Center is working with us. We're going to send 3 to 4 students to Welty Center starting in January for the first 2 blocks of their day. They're going to develop lessons and teach all the lessons for all the field trips that our elementary students go to. So a great opportunity for our students to model and be role models and mentors for those students, but they're also going to learn animal and land conservancy along the way. So they'll be there for the entire year, or the entire semester. Bmhs Athletics, we have a student right now working with Joel to do some marketing through athletics. She's part of the business department and is interested in marketing. We have student athletic trainers and a club for those. They can help with different events. We're also working with IT to develop some type of program so that they can actually build the computers for our labs. As our labs die, they build the computers to renew the labs. So we're also working on getting a marketing specialist to work with Monica and that student will be working about 10 hours at $10 an hour to help market and do some internships with Monica. So job shadows, we're working on that. That's a tough sell right now with COVID, you know, and we want to honor that. It's hard for businesses to welcome in large groups of kids or even small groups to shadow, but we're working on that. We have had several guest speakers from law enforcement to firefighting. I just set up a radiologist and nuclear medicine technician to come in November. UW-Madison Doctor of Nurse Practitioner students have been in talking to our anatomy and physiology classes, and they embedded their lesson to fit right in with what the students are currently learning. And we've also had some nonprofit organizations come in. Be the Match, if you're familiar with that, was just in today talking to our students about how to get involved in a nonprofit and to serve your community that way and why she did it and what she's doing. And she's a former student. We are also talking about emergency planning, and we're going to have some people in talking about that. We're also doing mock interviews with all of our sophomore students. So right now, we are working on a site visit with the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to take, we've got 100 seats reserved. We'll see if we can fill them, and we can get the chaperones to go. But basically, yeah, I know. So here's, it's really cool. They go, they visit the Bucks, and they get a tour of the business aspect of it. They're going to visit the accounting. They're going to visit one of our former students who works in the business side of the Bucks organization, Manny Hernandez. So they're going to visit with him and see him, and then they get to go to the Bucks game. Yeah, well, and I'm telling you, and before that, they're working on, they can submit projects for the Bucks to, you know, the Bucks have all these special nights, you know, Irish night, Pride night, whatever. So the kids are proposing their night, and there's different groups working on it. And they submit it. The top 3 groups out of all the groups that are there on that day will be recognized by the Bucks, and the top group will be on the court recognized during the game, because they do get to go to the game after all the other business is handled. So, and I've seen the projects, and I got to tell you, I think they're pretty good. They are our kids. I think our kids in Beloit have a unique perspective. Because they're not, I'm not going to give it away because it's too amazing, but just keep watch. I see good things for that. So we're doing that, and we're also going to start taking some kids who, I brought in the Black Hawk Tech. While she comes in, I had her talk to our seniors who are interested in going to Black Hawk Tech, and she started with a small group, but we're getting more and more as I go into academic labs and talk to them. I had some kids sit up and go, oh, wait, you can do that at Black Hawk Tech? So we're talking to them about what's available at Black Hawk Tech and getting them in to see what are their options, because of the 30 kids I talked to the other day, 3 of them had any idea what they wanted to do. And so they sit there and then they go, well, now what do I do? So we had that conversation about what to explore, and we're hoping that as we get kids more focused in their academies and they start thinking long-term, not only will they kind of discover what their interests and goals are, but they've got a plan in place for how to get there. And at the very worst, if they get into something and they don't like it, they know what they don't want to do, and they haven't spent their entire late teens and early 20s doing it, they know right away what they're going into. So it really is exciting that our kids can have more direction than they have right now. Oh, yeah, we do have 4 Youth Apprentice just started at Frito-Lay as well.
So when we first began this work, we saw the need to move forward in a consistent and systematic way. So because of that, we cultivated a partnership with Ford NGL, who has provided us a framework for implementation of our academy system. And so that framework really consists of 3 strands. The first strand is transforming teaching and learning. And this strand is really about teaching from the lens of a specific academy or pathway so that students participate in educational experiences that are rigorous and relevant to them. This is also the strand where teachers in core academic areas are working together with teachers like from the CTE area to provide project-based learning experiences. The next strand is transforming the secondary school experience. So this kind of gets back to the small learning community aspect of the model that Deb was speaking about earlier. The small learning communities do really allow our teachers to share students and collaborate with one another around those students in a regular and ongoing basis so that they can meet their academic and social emotional needs. And then the third strand is transforming business and civic engagement. And this strand is really about inviting community organizations and businesses into our schools and into our classrooms to provide work-based learning experiences for our students. So this could look like co-teaching, or this could look like guest speakers, or this could look like college and career fairs. Those are just a few examples of how we can partner with our community organizations and our businesses to support the learning of our high school students through the Academy model. Also, partnering with businesses and community organizations helps support the implementation, the success, and the sustainability of our Academy system for over a long period of time. Because this involves us meeting together regularly and collaborating to discuss our needs and our supports. And we can work together on ensuring those things are met. And then finally, our partnerships provide mutual accountability to each other in order that we assure that we are meeting our goals and that we are preparing our students for life beyond high school. So our transformative model, or our framework, is accompanied through the Ford NGL roadmap. And there are 5 phases to this roadmap. And to date, we have gone through the first phase, which is explore, and the second phase, envision, and we are slowly moving into the third phase of our work. So I'll go over a little bit of those more in depth here. So within the first phase, explore, we formed an Academy implementation team, and we participated in a needs assessment to determine our community readiness. This is where our Ford NGL coaches came in and met with many different stakeholders from the community, from our local businesses, from higher education. They met with students, they met with staff, and they asked a series of questions. It was like a focus group. And from there, they generated a report that communicated out our readiness to implement. And through that process, we did find that the community and the business community was ready to embrace this work with us. So we were very excited about that, and we moved on to phase 2, which was, or is the envision phase. And through this phase is where we began to develop partnerships, specifically with the GBEDC as our convening organization. In this phase, we developed our portrait of a graduate, which Monica will be talking about here shortly, and we established our steering committee. Now, our steering committee is also made up of several different stakeholders. We have representation from higher ed, the GBDEC, the Chamber of Commerce, we have community leaders, we have city council representation, we have school district representation, we have business community representation, and then we have parent representation. We also have our Academy coach on our team, and so that's a nice culmination of a diverse stakeholder team to help support this work. And this is where we're going. As I mentioned, we are moving into phase 3, which really has to do mostly with our master planning. So you'll see here, we are going to continue to develop our steering committee roles and responsibilities. We've had our initial onboarding meeting, and now, as we move forward, we'll really start to decide where we want to focus on. Plus, the steering committee will break up into tactic teams that will drive that master planning process. And through the, yep, that's fine. You could, yep, go ahead. And I just talked about our partnerships through our convening organization, and our steering committee, but this slide really is more of like a definition of what those organizations do. So our convening organization is a neutral, credible organization focused on business and community development. It serves as a communication liaison within the community and supports the implementation of our Academy master plan over time. That mutual accountability is really an important component of the convening organization. And then the steering committee is a permanent community structure consisting of representation from both the educational world and industry. It serves as a primary advocate and guiding body for the Academy system, and it provides accountability and sustainability for the implementation of our master plan. So as we get further into the implementation of our Academy structure, we have to find ways to measure the effectiveness. And so these are the data points that we're really going to be looking at closely to make sure that it shows that our Academy system is really making a difference in the lives of our students. So we would like to see it positively impact our graduation rates and the number of industry recognized certifications earned. How many students are enrolled in college a year after graduation. We would like to see a positive impact on our discipline data and our attendance rates. We would like to see a positive impact on our standardized test scores, on the number of students who are accessing rigorous coursework, and the number of students who are earning college credits while in high school.
Thank you, Ms. Pels. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Portrait of a Graduate, which was a lot of work, a community-wide event that really started in late February, early March. And this Portrait of a Graduate is going to be, well, it is, our North Star. So any decision, anything we're looking at in terms of measurements and data will be placed against this Portrait of a Graduate. So how did we get the Portrait of a Graduate? Well, Ms. Pels took her entire staff through a question and answer period, which I'm going to share with you. And then we pulled together 50 community members, because really our academies, while they are at Beloit Memorial High School, they are community academies. Our community, business leaders, communities leaders had a voice at the table and worked on this with us. So the first question we asked in all of our planning meetings would be, what type of person should they be? That means our graduates. And they gave us lots of words and descriptions and lots of feedback. And we kind of pulled the most important words, or the words that resonated the most, to answer that. Our next question we asked them, what skills should our graduates have? Either academically, socially, whatever. What kind of skills should our students bring to the table when they graduate? And again, we gathered all those words and feedbacks, and we put this in this word, a wordle, I guess, to give us direction. The third question we asked, how should they think? What would a critical thinker look like? What would a creative thinker look like? What would someone with a growth mindset look like? What skills would they need? Again, the words. And then our last question in discussion, what experiences should they have? What should our graduates have in experiences when they leave Beloit Memorial High School? So we gathered all these words together, and then we put a team together from that big group to about 20. And they gave us headers on what are the 6 attributes we would like them to have. We want them to be fearless learners, ambitious innovators, global contributors, resilient leaders, critical thinkers, and effective communicators. But not only that, on the back of our profile, we list all the descriptions. How do you get there? It's one thing to choose those words, it's another to give them direction. We are now collaborating with many of our business and community leaders. For example, there is a bookmark being made on our Portrait of a Graduate, and the library is going to be handing those out to everyone there. Emily, Deb, and I have been asked to go out to a lot of community partners and talk about what we talked about this evening and talk about the portrait of the graduate. So there's many ways we are going to market this to our community. And we're actually looking forward to sharing this and the other good news we have. I did leave a portrait of a graduate at everyone's place. It's on our website. We've shared it out with families and newsletters. So if anyone wants to access the portrait of a graduate, it's very easy to get to. Thank you.
And now we would be open for any questions you might have.
Board Member Schneider, do you have any questions?
I have a few. So let me pull those up here. Okay, looking at part of it is looking at that portrait of a graduate. So the skills that are there are what the graduates need to have when they graduate, correct? Not what they currently all have.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And I know at one of the points we looked at the Academy system, part of it was looking at equity and participation. I mean, to what percentage of our student body is really meeting those goals already, currently? And how does that factor in with all the different factors that our student body has?
So I won't be able to give you a precise number this evening because part of our master planning work is to really baseline where our students are. First of all, identify those goals that we want to achieve through the master planning process and through implementing our academies. The data points I discussed before will be a part of crafting those goals and creating that pathway to that 3 to 5 year plan. So we don't have an exact number right now because that will be part of the work that we are doing with our master planning team in identifying that.
Okay, thank you. Most of the other questions I had written down before were answered during the presentation. Thank you.
All right. So I want to say thank you for the work. I know we were working right before the summer started and you were all finishing up phase 2, and it's good to see the completed product. I think that for myself personally, I did have one picture, kind of what I thought the portrait of a graduate was and where it was leading with the data. So when I saw, for example, like the graphic in words, I was like, okay, that's different. But as you mentioned, the data points and things that you're going to be looking for, you know, I see the work that is there. I think that when you look at these 6 traits, and people will say, you know, what is a purple night? A purple night is these 6 things. That these are, as a community, to embrace this is to say that kids that are graduating from Beloit Memorial and that attended Beloit schools from 2021 until, this is what we were trying to do, these 6 things, to send them out into the world to make a difference so they can be a global contributor, an ambitious innovator, a fearless learner, a resilient leader, a critical thinker, an effective communicator. And then wherever we find these children that graduated from Beloit Memorial High School, wherever they might be across the state, wherever they might be in our country, wherever they show up in the world, you will know that they are from Beloit because they exhibit these traits. I know that, how we do our, what we do with our master schedule and the tool that we use, Skyward, those things are all there. But like I said, you have a North Star now, a vision to say these are the things that we're moving toward. And we'll begin to, like they say, put flesh on the bones as we go, but you have a direction. So I'm very thankful for your work to have a direction for the children of Beloit, for the professionals, to be able to give them a clear vision of what we're trying to do in our community. I'm thankful for the persistence that even when you didn't have support or things are unclear, that you have worked to bring everything to a head to a point where people can see it. And so with that, of course, there's, it's a big high school with the master schedule. Students self-select. They're going to pick different things. No matter where industry might say kids need to go, they pick the classes that they want to pick, and you have to allocate around those things. Of course, we understand the equity concerns that we have in Beloit, the demographic that we serve, and so all those data points there, I'm sure, will be disaggregated by race to make sure that all kids in Beloit are able to achieve, and when we find that others are not, I'm confident the work will be done to make sure that everybody who's a Purple Knight can be successful. I think that one of the big things that as you go out to the community, and I'm thankful for you taking on this work, because it does help to say that we are serious about academic achievement and the education that we want to provide to our students. Sometimes you have to be it's very easy for people to take shots at the school district of Beloit. And we serve the families that we serve, and we are the people that we are. The fact that other people may have low opinion of who we are, or don't think that the outcomes for us can be as great as we dream that they can be, that doesn't matter. As a parent in this community, as a graduate, as a community member, I'm thankful for this work, because you all show that we do have a plan for the children in Beloit, and that with hard work and this effort in our community, you'll see us in places that people don't expect to see us. And we are from Beloit. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Just so you know, as I go out in the community and I talk with members and I try to form these partnerships, I can't tell you how supportive they have been. It has been refreshing and invigorating to hear the support of our community and our business leaders. They want to help and they want to be part of this, and that to me is very exciting, because as you know, I am also a graduate of the school district of Beloit and a parent of graduates of the school district of Beloit, and my kids are doing well. And they're doing well because of the education they got here. What I want and why I'm doing this and what prompted me to step out of the classroom and do this is I don't want it for just certain kids in Beloit. I want that opportunity there for all of them. And when I go in the community and I hear people talk, that's what they want too, because we all understand that our community is better when we support and love and care and lift all of our students. So it really is, I'm really ecstatic about the support from our community so far.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to the team, and I appreciate you coming back, and the commitment that the team and I have made is that as we hit milestones, we'll continue to bring the updates back to the committee so that we phase it out, and we are very happy to have the continued committee support in that work. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Number 3, information items. Grant highlights from Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services.
We have a crew here. Good evening. So we wanted to spend a little time tonight to celebrate some really good things that are going on. We have several grants that are coming into the district, and we're starting to see the fruition of those grants. So we're going to highlight 7 of them. 3 coming from Teaching, Learning, and Equity, and 4 coming from Pupil Services. And really then to understand how when we do this kind of work, we're braiding that academic outcome and also the social emotional learning needs of the students that we serve. And so we have some different people here from those two teams and departments, so we wanted to bring them forward so that they can go through those different grants and just highlight, and then at the end, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you. Okay? All right, go ahead, Kelly.
Go ahead. So I'm going to talk about two of the grants that we have with teaching, learning, and equity. So the first one that we have up here is our National Science Foundation collaborative with the UW. We're calling this a Welcome Grant. So the UW has worked with the School District of Beloit, the Welty Environmental Center, Beloit College, and together we have gotten a grant for $348,000. And that's awarded to the UW Center for Climatic Research. But what we're able to do with this grant is form an informal network that we're calling Welcome. The work is all focused on the Beloit community, and the term of the grant is for 3 years. So during this 3-year period, what we're going to do is work together to form a community-based network for environmental science and geological science education. One of the large goals of the grant is to help support, enhance enthusiasm for students in STEM learning in the Beloit community. And the School District of Beloit represents a really great school community to do STEM work and to really do this work, because historically, districts like ours, students of color, have been left out of that STEM careers pathway. And so what we're really trying to do is build that enthusiasm, particularly in environmental science. In addition, we're really focused on building science skills for students, so that there are several scientifically sound and vetted protocols that students will be learning in their classroom. We're trying to broaden opportunities specifically for youth who are on the autism spectrum through some camps to develop their science skills as well. And then we're also working to support pre and in-service teachers through some specific training and some on-site training that will continue to happen throughout the 3 years that we're working together. And then you heard Deb's not here anymore, but you heard Deb mention some of the Welty internships. Part of those are supported through this GLOBE grant as well. You can go ahead and switch. So what's really, really exciting about this grant, and I'm going to try to not get overly enthusiastic and wave my arms, but what's really exciting about this grant is that GLOBE is really a project that started from NASA's need to do environmental research and geological research. So as you are probably aware, NASA has a whole bunch of satellites that go around the Earth at all times, and they're monitoring different environmental conditions on the ground. And this project has been underway for several decades, and early on NASA recognized that they could not confirm what was happening on the ground from these satellite readings without engaging more scientists. So they have been on a mission to create citizen scientists to participate in GLOBE. And through their GLOBE program, what they do is they train teachers who then train students in how to use these scientific protocols. And as students gather the data, they actually input this data into a database through the NASA website, and that allows NASA researchers to actually use our students' data to verify what environmental conditions in this area are like. So the students are actively engaging and contributing to the scientific community. And so I get very excited when I talk about it, because that's one of the ways in which we can really get students to see their way into STEM pathways, right? Because they're actively contributing to that community as a student. We are currently starting, this is a program for our secondary students, so we are starting with our 6th grade teachers and some of our teachers at the high school. And as a result of the grant, we started our training last week with the teachers. You can see in this picture every site, so every intermediate school and the high school, and in addition, Welty and Beloit College, we're provided with all of the materials that they will need to run the protocols. So if the schools are trained in a protocol, they will get the science equipment that that classroom needs to run the protocols as well. So there's no barriers to actually doing the implementation. So that's our first grant. Our second grant is really focused on our gifted and talented students in our advanced learning program here in the district. So we are one of 10 districts that's been selected to participate in a Javits Gifted and Talented Education Program grant. And this Javits grant is really one where we don't receive a monetary award, but what we receive are really consulting and professional development services through a consortium. So this Javits grant is actually a collaboration between UW-Whitewater, Eastern Tennessee University, Vanderbilt University, and the University of Connecticut. And there's a research group that is working to help districts improve their gifted and talented identification processes, particularly in making them more effective and efficient, and also more equitable. So the grant really has 4 phases, and we are just entering that first phase. We'll be working on this for 2 more years. The first phase is really a data gathering phase. So they have asked us for a lot of information on our policies, our processes, the practices we use for identification, test information about how we make decisions, right? How many of our students are involved in our GT program, not just GT identified, but maybe also participating in some of our enrichment activities. All of this information then is going to go to this research team that will do an evaluation of our program. In the second phase, they will actually provide recommendations back to us, and we will have the opportunity to collaborate with them and other districts in revising and rethinking our protocols for GT identification. In addition, we'll participate in quite a bit of professional development as well. In year 2, we would turn toward more implementation and a reevaluation. So this is really set up as a continuous improvement process. So we may try some things and do a reevaluation, and we get support throughout that entire process and an additional analysis. So what's really neat about this grant is that this provides us with an outside set of eyes to really do a good job of reevaluating some longstanding practices to see if we can actually improve our program. And like I said, this is a 2-year grant, and we are one of 10 districts across the country that have been invited into this program. So this is a really neat opportunity for us. Oh, that's not.
Dan's driving.
Dan's right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I don't know how to get rid of that now.
Hopefully I mess it up.
Three dots. Three dots. There you go.
Yay. Okay, so the last part for teaching, learning, and equity is this Instruction Partners and Kellogg Foundation. We just shored this up last week, so I'm excited about this one. This one is an extension of some work that we had done with Department of Public Instruction. They had a relationship or their own partnership with Instruction Partners, which we participated in. And then this is getting at kind of folding into that high quality materials instruction that we've been talking about in adoptions. And Instruction Partners reached out to districts to see if there was some interest because they were awarded the Kellogg funding. And so we had to do an interview process. And then at the end of that process, they landed on 2 districts. One is Milwaukee Public Schools and the other one is the School District of Beloit. So we'll have the opportunity to work with them this school year. And specific to implementation of high quality materials, we will be working with our ELA Springboard implementation. We refreshed those materials in 2020. And so this is really getting into those classrooms and thinking about how we're using and implementing those high quality materials in our secondary. And then the other piece of this is the opportunity to begin to talk about that math adoption, because when we talked earlier in the committee about that circulation in that calendar, so we're getting ahead of that and thinking about what we can do. Instruction Partners are known for a framework in how to create a vision, how to do an adoption, and then how to implement. It's like 3 phases, and actually it informed our ARC reading adoption materials. We used that framework to develop and implement. So excited just to let you know that we'll continue that relationship with them.
All right. My name is Eric. I'm the Director of Special Education and Student Services. So I'm going to talk about our first grant, which is the ES3 grant, which is Enhancing Social Emotional Skills for Students with IEPs. So this grant is awarded to one district in each of the CISA regions throughout the state. And so we are the CISA 2 district that gets to participate in this grant. It's a 3-year process. It's $56,000 over the course of 3 years. So not a lot of money, but it gives us access to statewide networks and coordinators that can support us through the work that we do. This grant is really going to be focused on student support. So looking at evidence-based improvement strategies, specifically for students that have IEPs in the area of emotional behavioral disability and or students with autism, specifically if they struggle with social and emotional supports. There's a coaching commitment. So myself and then one of our program managers who serves as kind of an overarching support for the grant have been participating in a coaching academy. We did 2 days last month. We did 1 day today. We'll do another day next month. And the intent behind that is to foster a coaching cycle for teachers, essentially in the special education department, who are supporting these students. We worked with team building through cross-disciplinary teams. So we have members on this team. We have general education staff. We have related service providers, special education, student services. And then we're working to build family and community engagement. So we've partnered with WISPE, which is the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative. And they've done some work with us in identifying some areas where we can improve around fostering more collaborative partnerships with our families. And so we will then go through the course of this year and really kind of refining what we want that to look like. And the intent is that through increasing the partnerships with our families, that'll just add another layer of additional support for these students that are struggling with some of the social emotional needs.
Good evening. My name's Samantha Walnuts. I'm the district's AODA Youth Development Coordinator. So I have 2 grants tonight, the AODA or Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse grant. The district has worked with this grant in the past. They each year were awarded the $25,000 for the next 2 years. And as a partnership, we've partnered with our local youth-to-youth coalition. And through that, we're providing multiple presentations on vaping within the community, within the United States, what data looks like for that. As we know, in the midst of the pandemic, that our AODA drug abuse has skyrocketed. So the work this year has been pretty instrumental in getting the education out there, as a lot of students are really unaware of what's actually in those products and what could be in them if they don't know where they got them from. So we're working through the grant to be able to train some additional staff members in our motivational interviewing process, which is what the district uses as the steps for an AODA referral. And then we work through the YRBS, which is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and take that data and break it apart amongst what the district needs to use it for. Okay, so the next one is the mental health grant. This one's also a 2-year grant. $75,000 is awarded each year. The district has done some pretty phenomenal work with this grant over the past few years. Last year, we were able to get a mental health referral pathway up and running for the community to be able to access, meaning we've pushed it out through the police department, who can help us refer students who may not need the justice piece of it, that they truly feel they need a mental health piece of it. And then we're able to connect them with our community resources. We are working to promote and get more staff trained in trauma responsive practices, which we've created some wonderful partnerships. Over the years, Beloit Counseling Care is housed at the high school, so a wonderful partnership within that. We've done a lot of work with NAMI over the past few years as well in regards to some of those trainings. Universal implementation of our social emotional curriculum. This is a pretty big year for us now that we're back in person, really seeing the need for a universal practice, and we were able to get some additional trainings from the money and then make sure that we're able to properly train staff on how to run through the curriculum. So.
Good evening. I'm presenting on the Homeless Children and Youth Grant that we've been awarded this year. This is, again, a grant that we have been awarded in the past, but unfortunately, we're not awarded last year. This is a grant that DPI uses to disperse funds to districts with high number of homelessness and high needs students and families to ensure that all students have the same access to a free and appropriate public education. We were awarded $50,000. Our current McKinney-Vento numbers as of last week were 290, and out of that number, 46 are identified as unaccompanied youth. We are one of 26 districts in Wisconsin to receive a grant award, so this was very competitive for us. This is part one of the Homeless Children and Youth Grant. We will be using our award money to increase outreach and identification of students experiencing homelessness. We are working to increase counseling and social work services to meet the rising mental health needs of these individuals and families. We're working on family engagement opportunities and providing more or better transportation options for the youth and families, in addition to wraparound services in the summer, enrichment opportunities, mentoring, coaching, and tutoring. That's the last grant we have to present tonight.
Board Member Schneider, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, it's a great thing that the district is receiving all of these grants. I think that we need to do some more community outreach to make the community aware of the hard work that has gone in behind getting these grants and the additional services that's providing the students of Beloit, especially now as we're still dealing with COVID. I guess the only other question I looked at, were all of these grants then written at the administrative level, or did teachers write some of these grants?
I can speak to pupil services. Everyone who presented their grants wrote their grants.
Okay.
For the ES3 grant, though, there was involvement from some of our therapeutic teachers.
Great. And I think we also need to make that known to the community, that all the extra things that people are getting involved in, that with the effort to really benefit all of the students and to meet the needs of the students that are here. So thank you all for your hard work in getting these grants and for helping the students.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Board Member Schneider. That would be a great newspaper article when you describe the grants and the services that are provided in the school district of Beloit to meet the needs of our population and the students and the families that we serve. One question that I had is, and you did mention the youth risk behavior survey. Can you just describe for the committee and for those that are listening how that survey is used, and then when the information goes out, and then choices and decisions, the programming that might be wrapped around that?
So the youth risk behavior survey can be used for multiple facets in the district. The mental health portion of it helps us drive a lot of the work within pupil services as far as counseling services, community partnerships that we're creating. But it also helped drive the need and the decisions to purchase the social emotional curriculum for the high school and BLA as well. There's a school safety portion of it too that helps drive some of the policies within that, which is, I can't speak 100% to that portion, but the school safety really kind of getting a gauge on where students feel that they're the safest, their connectedness amongst teaching staff and other staff within the building. I think that's most of it.
All right, that's fine. I just know there's more to it, and sometimes people need to hear that. We're thankful for all of the grants that have been presented and the hard work that went into writing them. Lastly, I just want to talk about the STEM grant and the citizen scientist. A particular interest here, when I look at this grant, I think about like the work, as you mentioned, about our student population, for all of our students, and then also, as you said, that in that field of STEM for our minority students. And I think about some things that are already at place in the district, like our Rising Knights HBCU tour, because that is where the majority of African American scientists are coming from, places like Alcorn State University, Jackson State University, North Carolina A&T. And I think that one of my concerns as a board member is that even though we are here in Wisconsin, there are multiple opportunities for our students to go other places. I myself, the benefit of school district Beloit education and being able to go to other places. For our STEM students, to have an African American female from Beloit earn a chemistry degree, a physics degree, a biology degree. One of the things that we have to capitalize on in the district is educational history and things that work. In these communities in Mississippi and North Carolina, Alabama, they have been educating black people since slavery was over and before. And so for our children that are here, and even for our white children who are used to going to school with African American students, for our Hispanic students that are used to being in a mix of other people that are not just white, there are tremendous opportunities at the historical black colleges and universities. There's grants at that level where they're receiving from the federal government. So as we are participating in our community with NASA, that's very exciting for those opportunities for our students, but then also to help them see places beyond the school district of Beloit where they can put these things into practice and come back and be a contributor and be held up as a model from our district, that these are places where you can go and there are people that look like you that are doing these things. So thank you very much for that work.
Yeah, and that just prompted one of the things that we are going to do through this grant, because the Globe Network is so large, is that we can have virtual Meet the Scientists, and we are paying particular attention to finding people who will resonate with the interests and also the identities of the students that are in our classroom.
All right, thank you
Yep.
very much for your work.
Thank you to the team. I know that writing grants is tough work. It's long hours. It's a lot of research and reading and revising. And to the point about communicating when we are awarded these grants, it is a celebration both internally and externally. And I know that we put out press releases, and we always, in our weekly board updates, provide a copy of those press releases for board members. And in part, this is also part of that communication plan of getting the word out, because we know that all of you as board members from time to time will get questions, and it's great to be able to say through the partnership and the award of grants from state, federal, and private donors, we're able to provide these great opportunities to our students. So thank you to the team. Keep up the good work.
So we're coming to the close of this meeting. Next meeting date? Do you have our dates? Oh, look at that. So next meeting is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 at 5:30 PM. And now we're on item B. Is there a motion for adjournment? Your sound's not on. I saw your lips move,
Yeah.
but, okay.
So moved.
All right. Second, we got to vote on this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Means adjourned.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It is 6:38 p.m. and at this time I'd like to call the Human Resource Committee to order. Could we please have a roll call?
Okay. All right. Spencer Anderson,
Present?
Amy Levy,
Here.
Sean Levy,
Present.
Megan Miller,
Present?
Greg Snyder.
Present.
Roll reflects that all are present.
Thank you very much. At this time, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 5th?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Schneider, second by Levy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. At this time, is there any open session business to conduct for exhibits A or B?
I have a few questions, so if anyone else wants to go first, that'd be great.
Sure. Let me just take a look. I forgot to open up the chat here, so I didn't see if Board Member Schneider said anything. Okay, great. So go ahead, Board Member Levy.
All right, so starting with Exhibit A. One, I just want to make sure that I understand the reporting correctly. It's my understanding that per policy, an employee is eligible to receive a temporary increase of 15% of their daily rate if they're doing their job and then helping with additional duties. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, and I think I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, Barreau. Ms. Barreau is being brought on to take on additional duties in the absence of an assistant principal. Is that Ms. Thompson?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so here's my question. At the last policy, or HR, I'm getting my meetings tangled. At the last HR meeting, we approved for Ms. Thompson to get that 15% increase, and it was my understanding she was doing her job responsibilities and additional.
Yep.
But then I got thrown off when I saw this because someone is being brought in to take care of her responsibilities.
There's, Ms. Barreau is going to actually be doing her duties as a teacher, and also while Ms. Thompson is out of the building at Robinson doing her duties there, they're kind of both doing both duties. So they're still, Ms. Thompson is able to fulfill the role of her assistant principal working with her team, but not in full entirety because she's not in their building. She's at Robinson building.
So here's my question. If in order to be eligible for the 15% increase, you do your job and then additional duties, if someone is being brought in to help you do your duties, that doesn't seem like additional duties. It just seems like kind of a slightly different assignment.
Right. And in these situations, both of those employees are taking on responsibilities of a higher position. So there's a difference in pay between the assistant principal and the principal duties that they're performing. So it is the vacancy as well as the elevated position of the duties they're performing.
Okay, maybe I wasn't clear. If the 15% increase is because you're doing your job and extra, then why would someone else be brought in to help you do your job?
And I'm sure I'm not speaking this for this situation. Ms. Thompson is still able to do her duties, but she's not physically located in the building. So she is still coordinating with them on the actions that have to take place, that they're working on Academies, working through those programs. but her physical presence is not in the building. So she's still working on that side. Ms. Burrow is stepping in for that physical presence of the duties of lunchroom supervision, of being the hallway monitors, doing those type of team meetings that because the other individual is assigned somewhere else, she's not present to do that.
No, that makes sense. But that takes me back to my first question. If it was that you do all of your duties and addition, and it seems like you're saying now that's not the case, if there is a hybrid, that you could get that as well, and then other people could be brought in to support your current duties?
Yeah, the policy, I believe, actually states that it's between 5 and 15% for additional duties due to a vacancy. So it doesn't specifically indicate you have to do everything just in your role and everything else. There's going to be, it's for additional duties that are being assigned to you for a vacant position that is open.
Okay, that's why I started off with the first question.
I think I was not hearing and communicating correctly. I'm sorry.
No, okay, thank you for clearing that up. And then my other question, my final question on Exhibit A, is that I see Ms. Hendricks Nora is slated to receive additional pay for extra work done. That seems perfectly fine, but my question is, why is the board being asked to approve something that ended 3 months ago?
Okay, and that is a great question. The reason that this is coming now is when that absence happened at Cunningham, Ms. Hendricks Nora had said she would take an advisory role, and we had asked her to advise the 2 assistant principals in any work that they were doing during that time. However, we had recently learned that that role that she had as advisory turned into a much more intensive assistance role and having to perform more of those duties. So once we were made aware of that, I put it on here because I wanted to make sure that she was recognized for the duties that she did above her duties as summer school principal and principal of McNeil, as well as the Cunningham.
No, that makes complete sense. My only issue is that it's 3 months later, and if we have better oversight of what's happening, then that could have been caught and she could have been compensated back in July.
Yes.
All right, Exhibit B, just a couple questions. If you could just please confirm that the 4 noon supervisions listed does not put the elementary sites or the intermediate sites over their $4,200 and $9,660 respective limits.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you so much. And then just a question, there is no issue per site information on the district addendum sheet for the grade level student leadership team. So I'm not sure how many of those are able to be issued. And there's also nothing that indicates that those assignments can be shared. I'm assuming that it's fine. But my overall concern is that I need for us to have a good standard, so i.e. the metrics and the addendum sheets, so that when we are reviewing these recommendations, we have something to compare it to, and it's apples to apples, oranges to oranges. So with the addendum, let me just pull that up. There is, for the noon supervision, it tells us how many are issued per site and that they can, in fact, be split. But again, with the grade level leader / school student leadership, it just has $1,500, but it doesn't say how many can be issued, and I'm assuming it can be split. That seems completely reasonable to me, but I'm not sure why you would include, why that information would be included for one position but not for another, if it's a possibility.
Any addendums usually can be split. The reason that we have always indicated it on the noon supervision is that some of the teachers at elementary and intermediate schools don't get a full lunch period that they could do that time. So it was a clarifier for the building administrators to know that they could split those out. The reason I didn't indicate on this list for how many grade level leaders and school leadership team, because that varies. Grade level leaders at the elementary school, you're going to have one for every grade level. At the intermediate schools, you again would have it for the grade levels. But the school leadership team, some of those are inclusive of they're part of your grade level leaders at the intermediate schools, but you also have student services, exploratories, other individuals that are not just grade level representatives on your school leadership team. So they do have designated amounts that they can, but it would vary by the school. So we can definitely break that out. This is still a new chart that we were trying to get into a summary, so I appreciate the feedback, and I don't have any concern adding splitting, but any addendum at this point could be split.
Yeah, and thank you for that information, because that wasn't clear since it was just isolated to noon supervision. So if I'm understanding you correctly, building principals have unlimited grade level leader, and school leadership team addendums to issue, or is there a cap per building?
Yeah. Yes, there is. You would have I didn't mean to interrupt you, I
No, you're
apologize.
fine.
So you will have the grade level, you have one grade level rep for every grade level in your elementary schools. And your school leadership team, it is identified as your grade level leaders, and then you have student services and exploratory. So they get a list of what they have. We've identified, you have exploratories, you have your student services, and we have PBIS now as well that's on the school leadership team.
Sounds good. So yeah, it would be helpful, again, since we're tasked with being a check, if we know how many are issued per site, the exact same way you did with the noon supervision, that would be really helpful. And then a question with the PBI, so the information for the PBIS coach and support identified on the matrix are at the high school level. However, the proposed PBIS coaches and supports listed on the recommendation are all at the intermediate level. Are there the same amount?
On the sheet, the addendum sheet, it identifies the elementary schools get 1, intermediate schools get 2, high school gets 2, BLA gets 1 for the coaching, and elementary gets 2 supports, intermediate get 3 support, and high school gets 3 supports.
Could I just interrupt you there?
Yep.
I'm not talking about the mentors and the buddies yet, just the PBIS coach and supervision. Where are you seeing the issuance of those?
Those are at the very bottom of this sheet.
So the one that I have, which we had this issue before, and I thought I was using the same one, had club advisors for intermediate and elementary. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that is the one it was updated to include that. So the one on board docs has the PBIS at the bottom of it.
Okay, so the one I have for club advisors at the intermediate school has 460, and then experience, it goes up further.
No, I apologize. It is on the board, the district issued addendums under the lunch supervision. PBIS is right at the bottom of that, not on the clubs.
Okay, because see, the district addendum that I have, it ends with noon supervision.
Right, and that is what the one that we had at the last meeting did end there. As I said, that's why I'm attaching it every time to the building, because we just set these PBIS addendums because we were trying to figure out the structure, because 2 years ago, all of those addendums were cut. So we were trying to figure out our structure. So when I was attaching this for this board meeting, it now has the PBIS on the bottom.
So let me ask you this. When you say it now has it at the bottom, then that wasn't a part of what was approved in May? That was added on after that?
The district addendums, where those aren't this wasn't a board approval. These are those ones that we set that are flat amounts. That wasn't the athletics and activities that Mr. Beard brought to. These are the ones that the district sets. It says this is what this work is worth, and we pay those out on that side.
Perfect. So just so we're clear, the matrix is set, but the addendums could change.
If this.
Just the district.
Yeah.
Just the district addendums. All the other addendums that are on the club
That's the
matrix.
matrix.
That one are set per board approval. The district ones, that second one that Ms. Armstrong's talking about, is something that we set. So what PBIS was not one that was there. We recognized we wanted it, so that's why we added it to it.
So that's a yes. So the matrix is set, the district addendums can change.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep, sorry.
Awesome. All right, perfect. That answers that question. And then my final question is with the mentors and the buddies. I just had a quick, what is the cap per building? Like a building has how many mentors, how many buddies? I just wanted to make sure that we were under that cap.
There really is not. The cap is really the capacity and the number of needs there are. So when we have new staff, new to the profession, we issue them a mentor, and people who are veteran staff that are new to the district, we issue them a buddy. And so it's really dependent upon how many are in a particular building and how many mentors and buddies we have available to them. So sometimes we end up having some people who are really good at their job can take on more than one mentor or mentee type responsibility, but it's really a capacity issue.
So it's unlimited?
Sorry, doing the same thing. It can be unlimited, yes.
Okay. So I just want to make the full board aware so that we're walking into this eyes wide open. Mentors are $750. Buddies are $250. We've just been told that it can be unlimited. So the total just for this recommendation is $88,750.
And that is part of the budgeting that I do on looking at what our staff turnover is and what we're trying to do for addendums and taking into consideration. So I don't just kind of like throw a dart and try, but it is kind of throw a dart and try because you don't know what the capacity is going to be.
Perfect. So I don't know if this would be helpful for anyone else, but when we see a ticket item of $88,750, I'm not saying that that's not necessary. I'm not saying that that's not well spent. But if a price tag comes before us, again, of $88,750 for buddies and mentors, it would be helpful to also have, this is already built into the budget, no need for concern. This is why this money is being spent in this area.
Okay. Yeah, and all of the addendums we do consider into, just for knowledge sake, it is built into our budget as any district sponsored. Now, if you've heard all the examples of the grants we're getting, and there is some possibility of getting reimbursed for some of those, we hopefully can take advantage of those as well.
So I guess this is my final question is, how do you build that into the budget if it's unlimited?
Like I said, I look at the turnover rate, what we will be looking at for new hires, take into consideration still teachers that are in years 0 through 3. So if they had a mentor last year, they're still entitled to a mentor while they're in their first 3 years. So working through that process, it's kind of like guessing your staff. As we look at people leave, I have to kind of gauge and analyze how many of them are going to take full benefit packages, who are not. That's the interesting part to me of my job that I want to spend more time doing.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you very, very much. Any other questions at this time from the board? Would anybody at this time like to request that we go into closed session for any item? Okay. Let me just double check the chat. Hearing none. Looks like, all right. Oh, okay. So I'm going to jump down to item 3, our next meeting date then. Nope. Oh, we do have oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I got all excited. Okay. Thank you. At this time, would anybody like to make a motion regarding personnel recommendations, Exhibit A or Exhibit B or both?
I move approval of employee recs, both Exhibit A and B.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, the motion on the table is to approve Exhibits A and B from the personnel recommendations. Is there any discussion at this time? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving both exhibits, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, and now we can jump down to item 3A, which is our next meeting date. Our next meeting will be held Tuesday, November 2nd at 6:30 PM for the HR Committee. Would anybody at this time like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And meeting is adjourned. Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. All right, the time is now 7:05, and at this time, I'd like to call our regular board meeting to order. Before we take a roll call, I just want to ask, first of all, I want to thank all of the students who made time in their weeks to show up for our board meeting tonight. I think it's wonderful that you're all here. And I want to thank your teachers who have asked you to attend these so you can learn about local government. It's really important stuff. And you, of course, are the reason that we're all here tonight. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. All right, thank you. The Board of Education would like to let our families and viewers know that our regular board meetings are being simultaneously interpreted. You can watch the Spanish interpreted meeting through the link found at the board website under the Watch Meetings tab with tonight's date. In order to accommodate this interpretation, we will be monitoring the pace of our meeting to allow time for the interpretation, and I would like to remind our board members and others speaking to please speak one at a time. Thank you so much for your consideration and understanding. And lastly, I would just like to thank the magic and amazing people at our district who created the thank you to the board members video that aired last week. We deeply appreciate all of you as well. All right, now that we have shared all of the love in the room, could we please get a roll call?
Yes, we may. Greg Snyder.
Present.
Megan Miller.
Present.
Sean Levy.
Present.
Amy Levy.
Here.
Spencer Anderson.
Present.
The vote reflects that all members are present.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to accept a motion to approve the agenda, moving item 6, public comment, after item 2F.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the public comment, which is item 6, being bumped up right after item 2F. Is there any other discussion on the agenda before we vote to approve? Hearing none, all of those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Board Member Amy Levy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if we could all rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And it's now my pleasure to bring us into section 2, where we will begin with item 2A, the swearing in of our appointed board members. Dr. Keyser, if you'd get us started, please.
All right. So if we can have our board clerk and our two new board member appointees stand up, we can come over to the podium here. And our board clerk, Board Member Levy, will administer the oath of office.
Congratulations again, ladies. All right. I state your name.
I, Joyce Howard Rupp,
Having been appointed to the office of school board member,
having been appointed to the office of school board member,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
All set? All right. I state your name.
I, Allison Semrau,
Having been appointed to the office of school board member,
having been appointed to the office of school board member,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
swear that I will
support,
support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Wisconsin,
and the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. At this time, we're going to give our new board members a couple minutes to get settled. Thanks for your patience, everybody.
So 9-5.
All right, we'd like to warmly welcome our two new board members. And at this time, we're going to move on to the election of a board parliamentarian as we commence with our organizational part of our meeting this evening. So we're going to do appointments down a little bit. Yep, no, we're good. Thanks for checking. So at this time, at a meeting this past spring, all of us on the board discussed having a parliamentarian as an added elected office position to aid in following Robert's Rules of Order during board meetings. So at this time, would somebody like to make a nomination to elect a board parliamentarian?
I would like to nominate Amy Levy.
We have a nomination for board member Amy Levy. Amy Levy, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
At this time, we can appoint Amy Levy by acclamation, or does anybody else have anyone else they'd like to nominate for parliamentarian? Hearing none, would somebody like to do we have to make a motion to do by acclamation? I think, let's just do it. Does somebody like to make a motion to appoint Amy Levy as our board parliamentarian?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Parliamentarian Levy. At this time, I'm actually going to defer to Dr. Keyser. Dr. Keyser is going to share some information with us regarding board office positions. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Board President Miller. So a question was asked in terms of board officers, because we've added a new board officer position in the position of board parliamentarian. And the question that was asked was, what are restrictions to board officers? After consulting with our district legal, there is the only policy and Robert's rules and state law rule that can be found is in regards to the officer position of clerk in relation to that person holding that office in the same year that they are in a re-election. All other officer positions, the rules are silent, so the advice of the legal counsel is that board members can hold multiple officer positions absent what I just shared about the board clerk and the year in which they are up for re-election.
Thank you. Did you also want to clarify at this time the other legal opinion that we received regarding committees?
Thank you, Board President Miller. So the other question that was asked to be researched was in regards to committee assignments. Moving forward, we asked district legal to investigate the appointment of committee assignments, and according to, again, the research in Robert's Rules, board policy, state law, there is no legal opinion related to any board members serving on subcommittees together if they are related in any way.
All right, thank you. Thank you for those clarifications. So since we don't need to fill the board clerk position based on that legal advice, we are going to forego item 2C because it is no longer relevant. And just as a last double check, Board Member Levy, go ahead. Do you wish to remain board clerk?
I do, and I just wanted to clarify that the position of board parliamentarian, per our revision of policy, does require training. So commitment 1 is to complete a board parliamentarian course prior to starting in the role no more than 90 days after accepting the role. So I just wanted to be clear to everyone that I would not actually begin service as the parliamentarian until I completed that course.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Before we move on to item 2D, which is committee appointments, does anybody have any questions, clarifications, or further discussion?
In terms of Board Clerk Levy taking on the role of parliamentarian and the train, if any other board members are interested in trainings, we have budgeted for the training for any board members who would be interested in participating in that as well. However, the role of board parliamentarian has been elected, and so that individual, board member Levy, once completing the training, will serve as the official parliamentarian for the board, regardless of other board members' prior training.
Really appreciate that. If anybody is interested in that training, if you could just please email Dr. Keyser and we'll get you set up. Okay. Any other questions or discussion relating to items 2B or 2C? Go ahead. Okie dokie. So we're going to move on then to item 2D, which is committee appointments. So we are going to be shuffling things around a little bit to accommodate our new board members. And it's so great to have a board of 7 again. At this time, let me just make sure I have my sheet in front of me. Here you go. All right. Ms. Ruff, would you be interested in serving on the Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services Committee that meets on the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 5:30?
Yes, I would.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And at this time, since Board Member Anderson is serving as the chair of the Business Committee, I've asked, he's agreed to step down from the Policy Committee. So at this time, Ms. Semrau, would you be interested in serving on the Policy Committee?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that. So at this time, all of our committees now are fully occupied. Does anybody have any other questions, discussion on committee appointments? Go ahead, Board Member Anderson.
I believe we still have one more appointment for the committee I chair as. Yes.
Oh, okay. For some reason, there was conflicting information about that. So Ms. Ruff, would you then be interested also in serving on the first Tuesday of the month at 5:30 on our Business Services Committee? Oh, no, so wait, sorry. So wait, Board Member Schneider, are you on there? Right?
Yes, I'm on the Policy Committee.
I'm just going to take a minute and just double check. I don't think he is. So, okay, so I guess I had asked Ms. Ruff if she'd be interested also in being on our Business Operations and Finance Committee. Ms. Ruff, would you still be interested in serving on the Business, Finance, and Operations Committee?
Yes, I will.
That's okay. No, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so now to clarify, we do have fully occupied committees at this time. There was some confusion about who was appointed to who, but I think we cleared that up. Okay, having said that, are there any other clarifications, discussion items, or questions regarding committee appointments? Okay. It looks like we're okay. Let me just double check the chat. Okay, looks like we're good. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And I want to, again, thank our 2 new board members for stepping up to fulfill those responsibilities. It's very much appreciated. All right, I'm going to wait. Dr. Keyser is just taking a moment to go over some information, I think, with our 2 new board members. So we're going to just pause for a moment.
Board President Miller,
Yes, ma'am.
was the only assignment for Ms. Ruff tonight?
So Ms. Semrau is going to be on policy.
Okay, that's the one I missed.
Oh, that's okay. No, thanks for clarifying. And then Ms. Ruff will be on Teaching, Learning, Equity, Pupil Services, and Business Operations and Finance.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. So Dr. Keyser is getting our new board members set up with their calendars for the committee meetings that they have just been appointed to. So we're just going to pause and let them feel comfortable, I guess, before we move on with that. Okay, so if we're ready to move on, the next item is item 2E. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background information on item 2E. Policy 151 and 151.1 are up for approval this evening. It has been our practice to bring policies forward for both a first and second reading. And while this is not in policy, we put on here just to discuss with the board if we wanted to waive that practice. And I believe there is some discussion on item 2E before bringing the policy up for a vote. So I think Board Member Levy, you had asked if you could speak to that.
I understood it slightly differently. I thought that the question on the table was, should we waive policy 151 and 151.1 in order, before we move forward with policy 187?
Yeah, I said that wrong.
And from the research that I did, having a first and second reading, I was not able to find that in policy, but that is our practice, which I think is a good practice. So it's my opinion that we shouldn't need to waive any policy in order to move forward with approving policy 187 as amended. And just to give a little bit of background, the gist of policy 151 is the Board of Education shall adopt policies to guide the actions of those to whom it delegates authority. These policies will be recorded in writing and organized accordingly. Again, I don't see any reason why we would waive that. Policy 151.1 states adoption of new or revised policies, proposed policy revisions with only style and minor content changes, or deletions of policy is solely the responsibility of the Board of Education. Again, I don't see any reason to waive either of those in order to take care of policy 187.
Thank you very much, and I apologize, you're right, I did misspeak when I was introducing that topic, and thank you very much for clarifying that. So at this time, Board Member Levy has raised a concern about going forward with item 2E. Does anybody else have different thoughts or discussion regarding item 2E? If nobody disagrees with the opinion that Board Member Levy just put forward, we could make a motion. I think we should, since it's on the agenda, make a motion to forego item 2E, if anybody would be interested in doing so.
I move that we forego item 2E.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forego waiving policy 151 and 151.1. Any additional discussion? Let me just double check the chat. Okay, seeing and hearing none. All in favor of foregoing item 2E, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Okay, so the board has voted to forego item 2E, which takes us to item 2F, which is policy 187, public participation at board meetings. We're bringing this forward to second read. Please.
One, I think we could remove the second reading because, it's not in policy that we have to have a first or second, so I'll just state that. And just to give some context for policy 187, I would like to thank Pam Charles for bringing policy 187 to the attention of the board through threat of legal action. After consulting with our legal team, it has been determined that the policy in question, I believe worked on by Ms. Charles during her time as a board member, may be unconstitutional. And so that's why we're not doing both the first and the second reading, because once we got that opinion from our legal counsel, we wanted to move expeditiously to remedy that. So our policy committee did just that, moved expeditiously to correct the policy error, and this is why it appears on the agenda this evening.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on this item? All right, so, and just to clarify, that is correct. We don't require by policy a second reading, but thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so any other discussion? Hearing none, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the revision of policy 187, public participation at board meetings?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Semrau, second by Levy. Any further discussion at this time? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes unanimously, so we have adopted policy 187. So now that we have adopted policy 187, we're going to move on to public comment, which was bumped ahead on our agenda when we adopted our agenda this evening. I believe there's somebody in person wishing to speak tonight.
There is. We have one in person, we have one email, and we have Ms. Harrell present in person to speak, and there are two other individuals who have yielded their time to her. So therefore, Ms. Harrell will have 9 minutes total.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. Harrell, whenever you're ready, you can just push the button to turn on the mic, and we'll set our timer for 9 minutes.
Good evening, and congratulations to the 2 new board members, and thank all 7 of you for your commitment to public service. Very important around the world and in this community that we have people that are willing to work, especially those who want to work in furtherance of education for our children. So thank you so much. I am a member of a collaborative of several organizations, the Wisconsin Education Network, Good Trouble, JOB, which is Justice Overcoming Borders, the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. We're a multi-generational, multiracial, and multi-ethnic group, but all dedicated and linked by our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things that I find most refreshing about this group is the number of young people that participate. We have people who graduated from Beloit Memorial High School 2 years ago, and we have people who graduated from Beloit Memorial High School more than 55 years ago. Will not tell you which group I fall in. Okay. But we would like to see that kind of representative grouping within the employees in this district. Within central office, at this time, it's my understanding that we may have one person who identifies other than Caucasian. We know that you can't just do equity, but we need to be equity. And we need to look at the makeup of our professional educators and see if they couldn't reflect the student body with which they teach within the next 3 years. Several goals that we have as a group: retaining the educators that we have, decreasing turnover, which we know is happening, and closing the achievement gap. People within this group have also said that they'd like to volunteer to be a part of the strategic planning committee. I was looking at television this morning and Dr. Jill Biden was on, our First Lady, who is also an educator, and she was with the National Teachers of the Year. And the first thing the young lady said, who was designated as the Teacher of the Year, is that 1 in 4 educators are considering leaving the profession. And the major reason given was the lack of professional commitment to their salaries and compensation. Teachers in the United States and in this community are poorly paid. That's something that we'd like for you to look at and something that we'd like for you to rectify. And also today, the American Medical Association came out with a report that says the pandemic increased mental health issues in youth to a crisis proportion. So to us, those are the avenues where we should be directing our resources. Taking care of our students, taking care of our teachers, and dedicating our resources to those things. Increasing pay. When I went to the city council meeting, one of the things that I heard the city manager say was that across the board, they had taken some of their pandemic money and given each individual city employee a 1% bump in pay one time. It doesn't go on the salary schedule, but they did it as a show of appreciation. I'd like to hear that the school district has also made that commitment, especially because what happened to education in this town and around the nation had to do with teachers having to pivot and pivot and pivot. Learning how to teach during the pandemic, learning how to teach a hybrid class, learning how to teach just a computer-based class, a virtual classroom. All those things they were required to do in order for us to keep education going in this community. What have we said or done to them to show any appreciation for all the work that they have done? I think it's time for us to say thank you to the faculty and to thank them with some money, not just words. Our commitment then to retaining educators, decreasing turnover, and closing the achievement gap does not support a proposal that we saw going forward for Director of Marketing and Alumni Relations, Director of Community Engagement and Volunteers, Chief of Communication and Marketing, Director of Talent Development. We see that that is not consistent with what our goals are, and really expanding central office doesn't really help, in our opinion, with working on closing the achievement gap. In the Beloit Daily News of March 31st, our superintendent said that there were 3 short-term goals created by the board: social and emotional needs of children during the pandemic, literacy gaps, and retention and recruitment of staff. That's pretty consistent with what our group has said our goals are. We'd like for you to stick with what you said your goals were, that are consistent with our goals, so that we do see more effort and more resources put into addressing student needs. Let's hire more school nurses or more school counselors or more school psychologists. I read the report, Profile of a Beloit Memorial Graduate, very interesting. I did the interview as part of the committee, but it still doesn't make me think that we need a Director of Marketing and Alumni Relations, a Director of Community Engagement and Volunteers, a Chief of Communication and Marketing, and a Director of Talent Development. Someone will have to tell me and show me how those positions are going to advance the efforts that we need to make in closing the achievement gap. As a professional educator and someone who worked in the field of education for 50 years and taught in Beloit for 20, I just don't see it. So our group would like for you to make this your consideration, meeting the short-term goals that were expressed by this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Is there another public comment for us to read at this time? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Dooley. We are just going to read a comment that was submitted prior to us changing our policy that we just did on public comment. So now that that policy has been changed, we can hear that public comment from that was submitted to a previous meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have before us a comment that was emailed by Pamela Charles of 2227 Carnforth Place in Beloit. It was on July 5th of 2021. At the June 22nd board meeting, a board member made very derogatory remarks about a man who has served this district well for many years. This was a violation of, quote, board norms, specifically board norm number 3 regarding professionalism. We treat all people with respect, quote. Such remarks could put our district in legal trouble, and behavior like this certainly does not help the image of the school district of Beloit. Prefacing hurtful and rude comments with, quote, this is just my opinion, end quote, does not make it acceptable. Unfortunately, this is not the first time this particular board member has behaved rudely towards staff or other board members in public and in private. It is the board's responsibility to correct such problems. The member can and should be interrupted, called out of order, and stopped. If the board president fails to do this, another member can and should. Perhaps having a board discussion on acceptable board behavior would help. Maybe counseling. If all else fails, a censure may be necessary. Please work together to put an end to such unnecessary, hurtful, and unprofessional conduct. That's the end of the comment.
All right, thank you very much. So moving on, that does conclude all of items 2 and what previously was listed as item 6, which now brings us to the report by the Cambio group on our Beloit Equity Project timeline. So Dr. Keyser.
Good evening. I'm proud and honored to bring in front of the board this evening, our full board this evening, the Cambio group, which is made up of 3 individuals, Dr. Lamar Shields, Dr. Marina Gilroy, and Mr. Rodney Thomas. Full disclosure, Mr. Thomas and I have worked in a previous district and have a professional relationship prior to our intersecting here in the school district. They are working with us as part of the Cambio group on equity strategies, and I submitted a project timeline with some dates, and they are here to talk about their organization, their philosophy, their beliefs, their intersection with us, and the outcomes that they hope to achieve by working with us, and some of the work that they'll be doing this year, which then they'll forecast and foreshadow some work that will be going on this summer and into next year. So with that, I'll turn it over to the team. So I'm not sure who's going to take the lead.
Thank you.
Hey, Rodney.
Hey, Dan. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah,
well, first of all, good evening. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for the board members and the community members that are in the space. I thank you for allowing us to be here with you. I just want to just start off and say I am one of your neighbors. I come from the great city of Chicago. I grew up in Chicago, and I see some head shaking. There we go, Megan. Grew up in Chicago. Moved to the East Coast to work through a program called Teach for America. And so now I ran a school, elementary all the way to the college level, taught at Johns Hopkins, and decided that I wanted to do this equity work. But before I get started, I always like to greet you in the words of Salbona. And Salbona basically is a greeting that says, I see you. It's a greeting that comes out of South Africa. If any of you all are familiar with Bishop Desmond Tutu, which I'm sure you are, unless you've been hiding under a rock, Nelson Mandela and the funny comedian Trevor Noah, they all grew up in South Africa, and they would all start their meetings with Salbona. And I literally, if you guys remember, I'm going to take you way back to a TV show called Romper Room. Every morning this teacher would come on, and she would say, I see Dan, I see Allison, I see Amy, I see Sean, I see Rodney. And what this teacher did not know is that she was dismantling inequity. She was acknowledging all the young people in that space. And so we always start our meetings with this greeting, because it basically says, I see you. In response to Kahona or Shaboka basically says that I am here, I am ready to serve. And our work is about being servant leaders. Our work is not about getting people to buy in to anything that we're selling, because we're not selling anything. But our work is about getting people to believe in that this work is so important. And so I'm so honored. We've already started some of the work. Dan, I want to thank you for allowing us to come to your space. I also want to thank my partner, Rodney Thomas, who's going to say some things, and also my partner, Marina Gilmore. But we just want to start out with that greeting, because if we're going to talk about equity, we have to acknowledge everybody that's in the space. And so we want to start out by saying, I see you. We're going to talk about who we are, how we partner with you, and then why this work matters. I think you know right now, more than ever, with what's taking place politically on the basketball court, baseball field, the locker room, the liquor stores, the church, the mosque, the synagogue. There's so many conversations about equity, and so many people have so many opinions about what's going on. And we know that there's an opportunity. And Cambio in Spanish basically means change. It's an opportunity for us to really get a chance to do this work. So I'm honored to be doing this work with Rodney and with Marina, because we all have our varying different ways and our approach to this work, but we all agree that this work is very, very, very important. Our work is centered around a concept, and I'm going to let Marina and Rodney talk shortly, but our work is centered around a concept called Ubuntu. And Ubuntu, if you come to Maryland and you see a license plate that says Ubuntu, I tell people that's my car. I said, so when I talk to police officers, I say, if you see Ubuntu, that's a teacher, that's an educator who's trying to make a difference. And Ubuntu simply says that I am because we are. It says that, Dan, the only way that I can be connected is if we're connected. Sean, the only way I can be connected is if we're connected. And so this approach is saying that I acknowledge who you are as an individual, regardless of your gender, race, regardless of what team that you're celebrating. Maybe you're celebrating the Chicago Bears. I know y'all not. I'm just saying that real quick. But regardless of what you're celebrating, that we celebrate one another in this work. And so our work is centered around what Ubuntu is. Our practices can be defined in humanity. One thing that I know is when I'm coming to a building or to a space, I look for equity on the parking lot. I look for equity in the classroom when I'm walking down the hallway. I look for equity or inequity when I meet Dan's admin in the hallway or greeting me in, because again, it should be in every place. And as we talk about our work today, and as I close out with how we engage, I want you to imagine that we're driving down an equity highway. And on this equity highway, there are some signposts. There are some markers that keep us safe. There are some highway signs, and I know many of us, we sometimes ignore those highway signs. Oh, 55, that's not for me. 65, that's not for me. I want to drive a little faster. But as we approach our work, and I want you as community members, as board members, I really want you to take a look at this, because the touchstones are a hallmark to our work. As we're driving down this equity highway and coming into each school, there's several people in these vehicles, and our touchstones are the roadmaps to all of our work. When we're having these deep conversations, when we're talking about how can we be comfortable being uncomfortable, we use these touchstones. And I just want to share them, and then I'm going to bring Rodney in and Marina. Extend and receive welcome. Be present as fully as possible. Always invitation, never invasion. Speak your truth in a way to respect others. Learn and respond with honest, open questions. When the going gets difficult, turn to Wonder, or I say turn to Stevie Wonder, because I just love Stevie Wonder. Attend your own and the teacher. Trust and learn from silence. Observe deep confidentiality. Be open to possibility. And I think one of the ones that means the most to me is know that it's possible to leave with whatever it was that you needed. So as we work with the equity teams, and you're going to hear us talk about that, we always start out with our touchstones, our mindfulness piece, and we just sort of just check in, because we don't say we create safe spaces, because it's kind of hard to say people that you just met that you create. Like for me to come to you and say, Sean, we're creating a safe space. No, I think we create courageous spaces, and you have to be courageous to say, as a male of color, I feel this way, or as a transgender person, I feel this way, or as a person who might be this political person or that, I feel this way. You have to be courageous to say those things. So we create spaces and opportunities where you can share those opportunities. And finally, our work is really around helping people in your school district learn new strategies. Let me say this. Learn new strategies to compassionately interrupt inequities. This work is about being compassionate, not beating up on you because a group of people might have done something, but how can we bring some level of passion and compassion to the conversation? So I'm going to step aside, introduce my brother, Rodney Thomas, and then he's going to bring up Dr. Marina Gilmore, and I'm just going to be here to answer any questions. But as Rodney is talking and as Dr. Marina Gilmore is talking, I really want you to hold on to these touchstones and be very attentive and attention to what they actually have to say. So thanks a lot, Rodney. You got it.
Hi, everybody. Like Darnell, Dr. Marshall says, it is an honor to be in this space with you all. Thank you for welcoming us into the space. We definitely appreciate it, and we don't take it for granted. My name is Rodney Thomas. I am also from Chicago. I grew up in Cabrini Green, and have a lot of experience with understanding what it means to be in a space that is loved and cared for and creates a sense of belonging, and also understanding what it means to have unequal access and opportunity, particular spaces, places, and things, right? So I bring my lived experience into the space. I've worked in schools and school districts across the country. I've worked with the National Equity Project, and I've done a lot of the work nationally across the country. I've worked in Madison, Wisconsin, as Dan mentioned. I've worked in many districts within Wisconsin. I've worked in Rockford, Illinois, and a number of different places. And I am honored to be here with you all, and I will stop talking, and I will pass it over to my colleague, Marina. And you'll get the opportunity, I'll get the opportunity to come back in and share with you what we've done with your amazing district, and I'll stop talking. There you go, Marina.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. And we are a Zoom organization, so this whole Google Meets thing, we were like passing the hot potato, who was going to be the one sharing the slides, because I think the last time we were on Google Meets was like 2 years ago with a district, and so I'm the one sharing the slides, and I haven't done Google Meets in 2 years. So I don't even know what you're looking at, but I wanted to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Dr. Marina Gilmore. I'm coming to you all right now from Costa Rica, originally from Southern California, and split my time now between here and there. And this equity work to me is, to be perfectly honest, it's like the heartbeat of my life. It is work that I came into, I think, because I was called to do it. Started my career as a classroom teacher. Always felt like there was something about the experiences and the privilege with which I was afforded that I knew not everyone around me was having these same experiences. And something in me knew that people who look like me, people who came from the communities that I come from, people who have similar backgrounds to me, had to figure out how to be a part of this conversation. And so I am honored to do this work alongside some tremendous, really, I say giants in this field. Rodney and Lamar are just incredible in the work that they do. And so as we look at what we're doing with you all here in Beloit, I'm going to start screen sharing again. We'll see what happens. Okay. And so as we do this work, want to take a moment to talk about what drives us. And so at the Cambio group, we're driven by a lot of things, but the one that I want to just touch on today is this idea, it's the third bullet, that the people most impacted have to be the architects of the change. And so this is why, as Rodney talks about the work that we're doing at the district level, and Lamar and I talk about the work we're doing at the school site level with equity teams, if we want work that's deep, sustainable, and scalable, we have to work with people in partnership with people. So we don't bring in a program that we drop into your district. We have frameworks, we have guiding principles, and we come with a lens of doing this work all over the country. And so we can see patterns and we trace patterns, and the qualitative researcher in me loves to look at how do we really operationalize this work so that it does become sustainable. But we see ourselves doing this work with you. And one example I will just share really quickly. 2 days ago, we got an email from a teacher in a district we left years ago, and she said, we're having our first equity team meeting this afternoon, and I can't find the touchstones. Can you send them my way? And what's interesting about this is this teacher came from a small district in Maryland, and you right now can look up a New York Times article that was just written last week. Dr. Andrea Kane, the former superintendent of Queen Anne's County Public Schools, and you can see the piece the New York Times did on what her leadership looked like in Queen Anne's County and the equity work that was done, and then the equity work that has in part been dismantled in her departure. And I share that to say that when we went in and when we created a vision with the district leadership, the vision was always that it would outlive all of us that were having the conversation at the leadership table. And that's what we're seeing in the district, where teachers have really taken up the charge and have said, we need this work if we're going to make learning experiences for every single young person that comes into our building what they need to be able to achieve whatever it is that they envision in life. And so as we think about this work, and I'm about to pass it back over to Rodney so he can talk about just the overall roadmap and the work that he's doing around context and visioning, I want you all to think about what drives you in this work. What motivates you to make all of our schools better for all of our young people? Because I think if we can always look at where we are and how we grow from here, and also what gives us purpose and direction, then we'll be able to attach onto and link arms with each other and really create meaningful change. And so on that note, I'm going to pass it back to Rodney to talk a little bit about the district work that we're doing.
Thanks, Marina. So here you can see the three-phase equity roadmap that we began with in terms of the partnership that we have with Beloit. The one thing that I want to say before diving into this is there are, as I've seen best practices across the country nationally, they are focused on 5 things. Like there is an equity imperative and or a set of equity goals for which the district community can tether a vision to. There is also shared language or an understanding of the history of race and racism and structural racialization within the context as well. So we're not just talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, or equity as a buzzword, but we really understand deeply what it means. And we are diving deeply into where the inequities exist, who's impacted, and all of the particular things. They are the other thing. The third thing is that organizations or districts who do this really well engage in equity analysis or an equity audit. So that's literally the starting point. And I think where you all are right now and the work that we've done with you is a great starting point to be able to identify particular areas in where you want to actually focus and how do you actually build context and capacity from that particular point. The fourth one is organizations operationalize values around diverse leadership and radical collaboration. And the fifth that I've seen is organizations use explicit equity and inclusion lens when designing and assessing programs and interventions, right? So that's kind of the direction that we want to go with you all, just in terms of how we've seen best practices nationally. And here's the starting point. So we started out with an equity audit to, at a high level, assess the district's needs, strengths around these indicators. And this equity audit is really a starting point to identify where we need to where you need to pay attention within the district and where we build from there. The second thing that we did that is ongoing is we identified a set of cross-functional leaders within the district to begin to establish a set of strategic sessions in terms of building off of the equity audit. So now that we have the equity audit, what does it actually mean to articulate an equity imperative and identify a set of equity priorities that we can commit to making progress on? So I'll press pause there because I want to put a pin into the technical and relational work. So many districts are actually really great at building systems, processes, theories of actions, et cetera. But the thing that you have to pay attention to is what I call the below the green line work, which is like the inside out leadership role of equity. So before you can actually really be able to support and build systems and structures that align to an equity imperative or a vision, the work also has to begin within the individuals that are actually doing the work. So the one thing that I've been focused really heavily on, that is a combination of the strategy sessions and executive coaching, is to make sure that as you think about the makeup, the racial identity makeup of the Beloit group, what does that actually mean for this particular group to lead for equity? How do we pay attention to the biases and or the blind spots that we may particularly have as a collective group that's making decisions on behalf of a full community? So that's the one in working with the senior team. And go back a little bit, Marina. I just want to make sure that we're paying attention. And the executive coaching piece is also making sure that I'm providing strategic direction and support to the team, as well as coaching and pushing the team around what it actually means to be the group, collective group that's making decisions on behalf of the district. All right. So moving forward and where we are headed is we're identifying a set of priorities based on our analysis of the equity audit. We're identifying universal goals, targeted strategies to address those particular focus areas. We are identifying an equitable approach for addressing and prioritizing challenges. Right here, I want to pay attention to, like, how do we, in our approach and how we work with school districts, disrupt the traditional systems of silo and power, right? So not just a group of people in a room making decisions on behalf of a full community, but how do we actually have liberatory collaboration and make sure that we're engaging teachers, students, community members in a way that provides the district superintendent insight to experiences relative to identifying these equity targets and strategies. and then developing an implementation plan that addresses those priority areas. So I'm working with a couple of groups. I'm working with the executive leadership team. I'm working with the equality committee that was just established and setting them up for success by helping them to understand and re-envisioning what's our purpose, why do we exist, how do we support the work, and what's the role that we have in terms of how we are listening and engaging or doing deep listening to the communities in which we serve and providing coaching all around.
Thank you, Rodney. And so in alignment with that work, we are also looking at how do we then begin to answer the question at the site-based level of, well, what does equity look like in my classroom, in my context, in our school? And so when it comes to equity teams in our year one rollout, we are doing, we started with some site admin support and really helping site leadership assemble a diverse, robust equity team. And then we will be on site next week doing on-site equity learning walks at the 6 cohort 1 schools and meeting with all the teams initially. And then we're leading a series of virtual iterative equity team coaching sessions at all these cohort 1 schools. We also will be building out a customized online community of practice for these equity teams where they'll get not only asynchronous support, but also an opportunity to engage with some of our equity teams throughout the country as they work together around some similar problems of practice. And then we're putting some full circle support around the school sites by doing some site leadership support, doing some customized coaching support for those site leaders to how do they best support their equity teams, align with their equity teams, and make sure that this work does get operationalized at the site level. And so when we look at the iterative team coaching sessions and what we're doing in this year one cycle, we have a series of 6 sessions that we've built out for your schools that are built out not only around best practices in the work of how do we make this work, again, sustainable and systemic at the site-based level, but also on the data that we've collected over the years from our other equity teams as to what were the primary barriers in the work, what were the biggest opportunities for growth, and what were the big needle movers. And so as a part of this 6-part coaching cycle, the individual equity team members and then the school sites that will have post-work, small pieces that they do that build up towards what will be an impact story at the end of the year as part of a larger way to make sure that the work is, that we're putting benchmarks and targets and evidence of growth around the work. We do have some tools that we use to help collect the data and track the progress of the work at the site-based level. And we have state departments of education that are using some of the tools that we've created to track equity growth at the site level, because one of the pieces of the work that can sometimes make things a little bit sticky is that there can be an assumption that, well, if equity work, if we're talking about values, beliefs, and behaviors at the individual level and the policies and practices at the organizational level, well, that's not stuff that you can track. And it is stuff that we can track around qualitative and quantitative metrics. But we found that those qualitative pieces of data and the individual and collective self-reflective measures of growth, which is what our tools are built around, are great indicators to help us say, where have we been, where are we now, and then where are we growing into? And so every school will come out of year one with a very clear plan for how this work and what's happening at the district level, and that equity vision that Rodney's working with, what does that actually look like to be carried out at the site-based level? And so a lot of exciting work happening, different moving pieces, and our team is just really honored to be working with you all. And Rodney has been physically in the district. Lamar and I will be there next week. If you happen to make it out to one of our equity learning walks, I don't know how Dan is working around those, but if we happen to see you, definitely say hi in person. And on that note, Lamar's just going to close us out with just a couple questions for your consideration, and then I think we will take some questions.
All right, so you're going to share anything, Marina? So great information, Marina, great information. Rodney, I'm hoping that you are prepared for, this is a great opportunity for all of us. So when you think about sort of next steps, I think one of the things I want to encourage, I want to encourage the board members that are here and community members that are listening as well. You want to ask yourself, why is equity important to me personally, and why is equity important to me professionally? So you want to make a private and also a public commitment and a statement of that. Here's some questions for the next steps. What do you hope to achieve from this equity work? What will success look like? How will you measure the progress, level of urgency for change? What will you need to change about the way you work as a leader? How will you support and collaborate with colleagues? These are a lot of things that we ask our equity team members, because again, we're asking our equity team members this, but we also want you to think about this. How will you measure your own personal progress when it comes to the work of equity? What are you doing? Marina and I just got off the phone with another school district, and one of the ladies said, I need to work on my own biases. I need to figure out what are some things that I'm doing to hinder not only my own growth, but the growth of the young people. And so these are some of the questions we typically ask our equity team members. But we also want you to think about this. But outside of these 7 questions, I would ask you either to write it down. So why does equity matter to me professionally and personally? Why is this an important conversation right now? Or is it not? The great James Baldwin makes a great statement. If you're not familiar with James Baldwin, his work is probably more eloquent and more important right now than ever. He says, not everything in his face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. And so the question becomes then, what are we afraid to face? What are we afraid to change for? Do we want to change? Are we willing? And then, can we be comfortable with being uncomfortable? Because sometimes these conversations can be that, but we know behind every great relationship are difficult conversations that we rarely get to see. And believe me, with these equity teams, we have some hard conversations. We are supporting them throughout the process. We are working alongside of them, and we are coaching them through this process. One of the final things I want to say, our goal is to help them to deepen their will and commitment to interrupt these inequities and build their resilience to do so. Our goal is not to be in your district forever. We know Dan doesn't have a pot of money at the end of the rainbow and says, hey, Cambio, we want you here forever. But if we can help the educators who are the frontline workers that are working with parents, that are working alongside one another, that are working with community members, if we can help them come up with some ways to disrupt or interrupt in a compassionate way, I think our work will be done. And James Baldwin quote resonates with me always, because our goal is to face it and to face it head on. So that's sort of where we are. Dan, thanks for being bold and courageous. Thanks, board members, for being bold and courageous. But not only are we doing this work, we're doing this work together. As we grow and as we move, as we touch and engage with young people and family members and community members, I think the only way that can work if we sort of, do the work together. So that is it for us. And I don't even know if we're out of time.
We're great. No, that was a beautiful presentation, but I'm going to, before I make any comments or ask anything, I want to open it up to other board members. So I'm watching the chat, or if you want to just give me a nudge. Or you know what, actually, we're just going to go down the line. So Mr. Schneider, did you have any questions, thoughts, or comments you'd like to share?
Not at this time. I just appreciate you're working with the school district and working with us to make Beloit a much better community and a better school to serve all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Member Schneider. Board Member Semrau, did you have any thoughts, questions, or comments?
No, I just want to say thank you. That was excellent, and I look forward to seeing more of your work.
Thank you. Board Member Ruff?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Levy?
Okay. There are a couple of different things I want to share. Thank you for your work. I'm definitely excited about the possibilities. Been working with some of that James Baldwin myself. That I talk to teachers, the Negro child in his self-image and going for broke. As a board member, I'm only one of 7. So what I say is not binding, but you are all here as an action of the Board of Education, because there are things that we determine we need for our community. Beloit is an amazing place. I was born here in 1977 and a graduate of Beloit Memorial High School, 1995. Our community has to develop all of the talent and the human capabilities that exist amongst our students. We are a special place with a special history. I need you to tap into our local history as you are helping people to work and understand. Many of us just Mississippi people that come up. Didn't stop in Chicago, but came here, worked at Fairbanks Morris, did dirty jobs, served this country for rights that they did not have. And because my grandfather's father worked in the foundry doing a dirty job, I get to wear church clothes to work. And there are news stories like our Hispanic families and how they got here. We need that to be integrated, and even the white people that are here in Beloit, where they came from. That is part of what makes Beloit special. You know, Ms. Ruff is one of my teachers that I'm serving with her. I'm serving on this board with a classmate that I married. It takes a lot for a wife to decide that she wants to run for the school board, and then for me as a husband to say, I see the work that my wife is trying to do, and then to join the other people that are already working on the school board. There's some sacrifices that have been made because we want this to be better for all of our children. We want it to be better for the employees of the district. I'm a former employee of the district, like some of our board members are here. We have been called dysfunctional and crazy as a district. People like to kick us and say things about us. But the work that you will do is a part of helping us prove that there is a plan, that there are hard workers here, that our children can excel, and that they continue to be served by individuals of all races that love them and want the best for them. We're looking for some real defined goals, like when we get to staffing for 22, 23, that we can actually have a difference. Because there's many positions that are 1 year and people come and go on that. So there's you know, people who are currently serving don't have to be moved out of space, and that's not what anybody wants, is to hurt anybody. But there are jobs that need to be filled, and they can be filled with work that has not been done in the space, or the capacity has not been built to do that in that way. And then also to build the capacity for the work. Like you said, your plan is not to stay here forever. But this has to take root. Your work with the Equality Committee. The Equality Committee is historical, that when other districts were involved in litigation, our community said, let's work together. That work of the late Reverend Dr. Floyd Prue Jr., a lot of educators of color, people like Hugo Henry, Booker Street. In Beloit, when we talk as black educators, and what has been shared in our community is, when you look at the different waves of black educators, the Williamses, John Odoms, Hugo Henry, those that came from Lane College, Dwayne Street, Carlton Jenkins, Candace Link, Mr. Gupton, when those different black educators came, the time that they are here was like a magical time in the lives of the community members. And the response has always been that people are here, and then the conditions and factors that make it inhospitable move them on, or they're not able to grow here. We want to create a space that is safe for professionals of color, and that our community and our children can see that if you get an education, you truly can come back to your home and serve, and there is a place for you. So I'm looking forward to the work that you will do and very thankful for it.
Thank you so much for that, Vice President Levy. Board Member Levy?
I am so excited. I just want to extend appreciation for your presentation and just the way you showed up in this space. And I am hopeful that Dr. Kieser will not hog you all next week, and that we can schedule at least a little bit of time to interact and to continue the discussions about the work. So to each of you, thank you so much.
Thank you. Board Member Anderson?
I don't have any questions, but one thing I do want to say is I do look forward to the work that we have in front of us, and I'm excited to see our school district grow in a positive way.
Thank you so much. I am so moved by everything that's been said throughout the presentation and by my colleagues on the board. I just want to emphasize a point that I've heard a few people make. Beloit is a very special place, and there is no more important work than the work that you're going to be our partner in doing, which is to remove every possible barrier from our children to achieve the excellence that they can absolutely achieve. And I just really deeply appreciate you being here for your presentation and for your willingness to be our partners in that work. Does anybody else have any? Dr. Kieser, did you want to?
Thank you to all the board members for your comments. Thank you, team. I appreciate all the work that you've done thus far, and so hopeful for the work that we have in the future. I know that the conversations that we've had up to this point have only just begun to scratch the surface, and so that inside-out work is deeply needed and necessary. I'm so forward to looking at those learning walks and kicking off those school-based equity teams with our secondary, and then next year when we kick it off with our elementary. So thank you so much for coming in, and I look forward to scheduling another opportunity. I think you just got invited back to as many board meetings as you'd like to come in and talk with the board members. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, and thanks so much to Dr. Kieser for all of your efforts, guiding your team to work with this group, and definitely we'll carve you guys out a seat. You guys just come anytime you want. That would be great. So thank you so much. Is there anything else before we say goodnight for the evening?
Well, I did want to add one thing.
Please, go ahead, Vice
So
President.
also in your work, because I'm thinking about this, it's the head, not the heart. There are so many other educators that I did not list, but in your work with this district, I would encourage you to talk to retired educators. There are teachers here, black, white, Asian, from all grade levels. They have been engaged in this work and love the children in this community and encouraged us, even to this day, that we would attempt to do the things that we are doing now, those of us that are graduates of Beloit. And when you just start talking to people who are here, they will lift up different names and you'll hear them resonate, because these people have truly made a difference in the lives of children. And so I think that in speaking with them, you will really be doing a great thing to understand the power of work that has happened from those people. So I just want to lift up all those educators that have made contributions to all of us.
Thank you again so much, Vice President Levy. And with that, I think we're going to just say thank you so much, good night, and we're looking forward to seeing you hopefully next week. All right, thank you, and thank you, students, again for joining us. We are now on to item 4, committee and other board reports. Chair Anderson, do you have anything to share this evening for Business Operations and Finance Committee?
I have nothing new to share at this time.
Thank you very much. Vice President and Chair Levy, do you have anything to share from Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services Committee?
Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services Committee met today. We're updated on the work of Beloit Memorial High School and the Academy model, presented with our portrait of a graduate as they're moving into phases 3 of their work. And also we received a highlight from Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services about the grants that they have received and the work that is going forward with those grants.
Excellent, thank you very much. Our legislative liaison, Levy.
Thank you. So lots to share with the legislative update. I'll start with the Assembly Committee on Education. That committee will have an executive session hearing on Thursday, October 21st in 417 North Gar Hall at 11 a.m. If you blink, you will miss it because the public hearing is scheduled to start same date, time, and same date and location at 11:01 a.m. So the only thing on that agenda for the 1-minute scheduled committee is AB 446 relating to reading readiness assessment and granting rulemaking authority. Lots will be covered in the public hearing starting at 11:01. AB 405 related to special observance days in school. AB 602 relating to certain crimes and other incidences that occur on school property or school transportation and granting rulemaking authority. And then finally, AB 621, and that speaks to prior year pupil attendance requirements. So if any of those things are of interest to you and you are available on Thursday, October 21st at 11 a.m., this report is also attached in board docs. If anyone needs to go back, just the new items that are on the Assembly Committee, AB 611 is currently in committee, and this is new from last month. And it is related to the foundations of reading test licensures. AB 617 is also new, and it relates to early admission to kindergarten and first grade at a private school participating in prenatal choice programs. And also new on that committee slate beginning this month is AB 621, again, prior attendance, which will be discussed on Thursday. Moving over to the Senate Committee on Education, there are no upcoming hearings scheduled, but if you would like to contact your representatives, they should have information to report out because they did have public hearings on Wednesday, October 6th, and on Thursday, October 14th. The new items for that Senate committee is SB 587, relating to state aid payments for pupils in grades kindergarten to 12 who transfer schools due to the existence or absence of mandates regarding pupil face coverings or COVID-19 vaccines, school district membership in interscholastic activity associations, and the 2021-2022 school year. So if that is of interest, please reach out. Also, SB 589 is new, relating to the foundations of reading licensure. SB 597 related to early admission. SB 598 relating to gender identity and sexual orientation programs in public schools. And then finally for that committee is SB 608, which is also new, and that's that prior year pupil attendance. So I just highlighted the new things. There are several other reoccurring issues that are in committee, so please do refer to my full report. Just a note, if anyone's following along at home, I did take off the appointments. It just seemed kind of redundant, et cetera, but the website that I referenced at the beginning, if you are interested in people who have been appointed, feel free to click on that and you can read that under the Senate committee. Would you like me to move on to policy?
Certainly, and thank you so much for that robust report.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. All right. For policy, we already discussed policy 187, which was passed this evening. We are doing our best to streamline policy, but still make sure that it is informative and a place where staff and community members can turn to for accurate information. Policy 222.1, policy 222.1, rule 1. This policy is going to be discussed again in our November 17th committee meeting, and the important thing to note there is that the administrative team and legal will explore what impact, if any, workman's compensation has. So let me just back up. These two policies are administrative staff absences and the procedures for reporting and processing administrative staff absence. That was important. My apologies. So our administrative team and legal is going to discuss and explore if workman's compensation has any connection with these two policies, especially in a pandemic disease. All right, policies 532.3, professional educator leave of absence, policy 542.3, support staff leave of absence, will be combined. They will be assigned a new number in the 500 series, so more to come on the 17th. Two final things, policy 532.3, rule 1, and then 542.3, rule 1 will be combined for the previous reasons stated, and then we are looking to eliminate policy 556.2, non-paid short-term leave of absence for administrative support, because it has been absorbed by current policy. And then the same issue for policy 542.31, non-paid short-term leave of absence for support staff. Same reasoning. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions for Board Member Levy? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we're going to move on to item 5, which is the consent agenda. Typically, there is no separate discussion of the items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item or items will be removed from the general order of business and considered in their normal sequence on the agenda. Would any board members like to remove anything from the consent agenda this evening? Oh, please go right ahead.
Just want to make one comment. You'll notice that it says approval of regular and special meeting minutes. Typically, with committee meetings, we want to approve those within the committee. However, special meetings are typically extensions of regular board meetings, which is why we put the two together. But we wanted to make sure that the board and the community was aware of why you see regular board meeting minutes as well as attachments for special board meeting minutes.
Thank you so much for the clarification. Does anybody have any items they wish to remove or any questions for anything that Dr. Keyser just shared? Hearing none, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Schneider, second by Levy. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, which wraps up item 5. We've already moved item 6 and addressed that after item 2F, which brings us to our executive session. But one thing that we failed to address on the agenda was bumping up the future meeting dates. So is the board okay with me jumping down to item 8A before going into executive session?
Yes.
It sounds like yes. So thank you for that consensus. We are on item 8A. So for future board meeting dates, there will be, this is a very important meeting. We have our budget meeting, our annual budget meeting on October 26th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. As I understand it, as part of that budget meeting, there will be a hearing open to the public. Dr. Keyser, could you speak to that quick?
Correct. There will be a hearing that will be available prior to us actually hearing the final budget and the board making a decision.
Will that start shortly after that 5:30 start time?
I'm going to have Ms. Armstrong step up to the mic just to speak to that.
Thank you so much for clarifying that, and thank you so much, Ms. Armstrong, for taking the time to clear that up for us.
Sorry. So at 5:30, we will be doing the presentation of what our budget looks like. After that presentation, it is open for public comment as part of that budget hearing. And public can comment in person or submit email questions that'll be read into the record. And then after that hearing is closed by the board president, then you will do the action to adopt the tax levy and set our actual levy for the budget.
Deeply appreciate that. Thank you. So just to clarify, if you are interested at home, anybody who's watching, if you are interested in watching the budget presentation that I'm sure has been tirelessly worked on by Ms. Armstrong and her team, and then submitting questions, whether it's via email. I think in the past we've had a hotline open. I think we can probably make that happen, or coming in person to make any comments. We will conduct that hearing at that time. Once we've exhausted our hearing time, then the board will move to adopt the budget.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry to make you get up and walk to the mic. Okay, great. So that is our budget meeting / public hearing / budget adoption on October 26th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. The Business, Operations, and Finance Committee will meet next on November 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Our next Human Resources Committee meeting will also be on November 2nd.
17.
Human Resources?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had policy.
Nope, you're fine. No, we want to be accurate. Sorry. So to clarify, our next Human Resources Committee meeting will be November 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Our next regular board meeting will be November 2nd at 7 p.m. The next Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services Committee will be November 16th. Is that right? Yep. Okay, cool. November 16th at 5:30 p.m. Human Resources Committee then will meet that evening as well, November 16th at 6:30 p.m. And then we will have a regular board meeting on November 16th at 7 p.m. We have a board retreat scheduled, so please put a hold in your calendars to do strategic planning to kick off our board piece of the strategic plan with our consulting group Battelle for Kids on Saturday, November 20th at a time yet to be determined. Our next policy board meeting will be November 17th at 5:30 p.m. And then we have adjusted some meeting dates to accommodate winter break. Business Operations and Finance will meet November 30th at 5:30 p.m. Human Resources will meet November 30th at 6:30 p.m. And we will have a regular board meeting November 30th at 7 p.m. Does anybody have any questions or comments on any of our future meeting dates? Seeing and hearing none, that concludes item 8A. Since we've concluded all of our open session business for this evening, I will accept a motion to be made and a vote taken to convene the Board of Education into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, relative to considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion by Levy, second by Anderson. Any discussion before we vote? Okay, so for our new board members, we're going to take a roll call vote. So Ms. Dooley will call your name, and if you agree to go into closed session, please say aye. Ms. Dooley, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Spencer Anderson,
Aye.
Amy Levy,
Aye.
Sean Levy,
Aye.
Megan Miller,
Aye.
Joyce Ruff,
Aye.
Allison Simro,
Aye.
Greg Snyder.
Aye.
Thank you. It sounds like the motion passes unanimously. This does conclude the open session portion of our meeting for those watching at home. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.
You have been removed from the call. Goodbye.